I'd just like to also mention here, I think connecting the dots here is that, India has a great penchant for reinventing the wheel. We're constantly reinventing the wheel. Someone has done something somewhere, and we don't bother to actually, look at what's happening in one city. And also something that, like an integrated approach, like an informed approach from what we've learned across our cities. I'd like to ask Dr. Singh here, you have pan-national experience in terms of metro networks, not just with Delhi Metro, before that with other cities as well. I mean, if you could probably share with us your experience as to what were some of the things that Delhi Metro did right, and what were some of the things that you had to rethink, which probably can offer answers for people who are looking to build, transport of the future.
Well, most of the things were done rightly. Yes, there are certain things which can be improved upon. One aspect, as my friend just now mentioned, the Unified Transport Authority. You can't have a very efficient transportation system in a city like Delhi unless all other modes of the transport are integrated and the planning also done in the same way. For example, there are many bus routes, DTC bus routes running parallel to metro. If there was one authority, probably that would not have been possible. Though, yes, there has been rationalization of routes, but I think a lot could have been done if there was a unified transport authority. Then this debate of whether metro, BRT, this could have also been avoided. So I think this is one area which certainly we could have improved. Another thing which is I would like to mention, this concept of urban transport is slightly misunderstood. People talk of extend this to Sonipat, extend to Meerut, extend to Aligarh, I mean things like that, extend to Meerut. And people, those who are in decision-making process, they think like that. I think this concept needs to be clearly understood. Metro means metro. People talk of connecting village, rural areas and things like that. This is really to take care of the intra-urban transport. Yes, all the satellite towns, they should have their own intra-urban transport system. They can be connected with a rapid system. So I think this concept slightly is not fully understood. And this question I have to answer everywhere, wherever I go. So thank you very much.
Thanks for doing that for us as well. Here I'd like to just connect again, and I remember you mentioned that cities are the wealth of the nation, and I also like to turn that on its head and say the wealth of the nation is also in cities. So our cars and our bigger SUVs and luxury cars are not going anywhere in a hurry. So here I'd like to bring in Ms. Gadapalli to also talk about connecting what you said and what we know that cars are not going anywhere, and also what you said, sir, that about people are always asking what are we doing for things outside the city. Perhaps you can talk, because you've been discussing about a broad-based approach to transport in the country and not just talking in metros or smaller towns. Maybe you can come in here and comment a little on these two.
We need to start thinking about our needs, our people's needs, rather than just in terms of technology. Because technology doesn't come first. We need to start, as Mr. Ubale very rightly said, we need to start thinking people, what are their needs, what can they afford? All these need to be factored in before we start thinking about what kind of a transportation system we need in a city. That's precisely what has happened in the rest of the world, where there was this peak of people wanting cars, whether it's in the US or Europe, and recent data very clearly shows that it's peaked out. It actually peaked out not now, but in 1990, that the total number of car kilometers traveled actually is coming down in European countries and US.
I think that's something, of course, we also have to keep in mind that we are always behind the trend by a few years. And this is one question that lots of people ask. Do we really have a vision for our cities? And where within some of the ideating and some of the work that the government is doing, perhaps you'd like to come in and that third dimension, saying that how do you then bridge the gap? What is the vision that you foresee, and also the role of the private sector that you see in actually bridging some of these gaps? And we have something here saying transforming ideas to infrastructure. So there is the ideas, there is the infrastructure that's being built, and maybe you can add a perspective there.
I don't think we have a vision at all. In fact, we have essentially when master plans are prepared for the cities, these are typically land use plans. And what happens in these land use plans is you'll identify where the commercial areas are going to be, where the residential areas are going to be. But you need to have an infrastructure plan, and you have to superimpose your development plan around that. But one of the key things that I particularly found in Mumbai is that there is a disconnect that is available. For example, the master plan is prepared by the corporation, which essentially creates only a land use plan. And largely they're in charge of the roads and the footpaths. Then there is a second set that you have. The state government has certain roads under its control. So that's a second planning authority that you have. And third is the central government, which is typically the large metros that you have. The local trains that you have in Mumbai are controlled by the central government. So there is a disconnect all across, which is what is making the entire system completely dysfunctional. Nobody is talking to each other. So I think, therefore, we need to, that's the reason why I was talking about an integrated planning authority, because everybody has to sit together, bring the person back on your table and say that he needs to travel, he or she needs to travel more efficiently and in a smoother manner. So that, I think, has been the key challenge as far as Mumbai is concerned.
To bring that point in here, Dr. Singh, you know, a lot has been talked about connectivity. You know, you actually, once you get off, and I know that we've all worked where we had to park our car, where there was no parking in the building, which brings in your point, and we had to actually walk, and if it was raining or there was no way, because there's no auto guy worth his salt who will take you from here to there. He will just refuse. So what has been the strategy of the DMRC to actually look at development of the entire area and connecting the area between, you know, residences, offices, and different metro stations?
Well, yes, this is an important aspect of integrating with the other modes of transport. In phase 1 and phase 2, probably not much attention was there on these lines. But what we have recently done, even the existing stations of phase 1 and phase 2, wherever it is possible, we have drawn the plans where we can have a dedicated space for autos or rickshaw. This has been drawn for some 35 stations of phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 3 stations which we are now constructing, our more emphasis is on providing these other modes of transport, the dedicated space for auto, taxi, and this rickshaw and all that. Even in case of reducing some parking space. So our shift is now slightly that instead of providing car parking, I mean, I'm making a very controversial statement, because principally the transport planners, I am not a transport planner, they believe that, their view is that providing more and more car parking is not a solution. You have to facilitate more and more the public transport, and therefore you have to integrate more that. So facilitating more and more car parking, basically we are avoiding the public transport to that extent. So this is a slight shift in our thinking, and we are planning now phase 3 stations in that way. But yes, there is a problem in the city. You don't have land, and the land, it is either a park, a green space, or a government land. You can't acquire a private property I mean, those constraints are there. So within those constraints available, we have shifted this, our policy on this pattern, and probably phase 3 stations will be better planned. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Mr. Ubale something now that, you know, we're talking about the constraints. And of course, all of us, and especially we hear this a lot from the private sector, that how do you actually ensure that the ideas that you have or the objectives that you have work within the constraints that exist. So also to see when we are building newer cities, we're building newer townships, we're building new infrastructure for our cities or outside them, if you could probably comment on working within these constraints and what are some of the ways out that you are imagining now to actually build more integrated you know, living or working areas.
I think from our perspective, you know, to see that this, whatever technology that you have, Because there's also, I would almost call it a fad for all the cities. They want to have the Delhi-like metro system in all the cities. Now, it's an expensive system. Not all cities can afford it. And not all cities have the kind of capacity requirement for those kinds of systems. So I think it's important to understand what kind of appropriate technologies that you can bring into those cities. And there are a number of technologies that are available which you can actually implement, right from light rail to trams. There's so many systems that are available which are more cost efficient and which will serve the same purpose as probably a metro would do in a relatively smaller location. So I think bringing those technologies and acceptance of those technologies in a public context is, I think, one very critical factor that I think we need to consider. The second is, even today, I think when you try to implement it from a private sector perspective, it's almost an impossible job to obtain permissions. I know that getting permissions probably in the DMRC context, I think initially, if it was probably not Mr. Sridharan, I don't think anybody else would have been able to get it moving. And if that was the case for DMRC, you can quite imagine how it can be for the private sector. I think it's important that these bottlenecks are removed, not only for DMRC but also for the private sector. The third issue is about financing. These are expensive systems, and the economic life of these assets is about 40 to 60 years. However, the concession typically, you need to load very heavily initially itself. And most of these projects, as a result of which, become completely unviable. So I think two suggestions I had. One is, while the government of India allows 20% viability gap funding, so while on one hand it allows viability gap funding of 20%, on the other hand, through taxes, the entire 20% is actually taken back. So you virtually get nothing. In fact, the Sridharan committee had made a strong recommendation that in public transport context, these duties and taxes actually should be waived so that becomes an additional way by which you can provision services to the people. So that, to my mind, I think will make it viable for the private sector to participate. There are other very innovative solutions. For example, in Dharamshala, we are going to implement a system for ropeways, which will essentially cut short a 10-kilometer distance, which takes about 4 hours to travel from Dharamshala to McLeodganj in just about 20 minutes. So even in cities today where there's no right-of-way available, we'll have to come out with innovative solutions like this to see that people are able to move around in those cities more efficiently.
I remember when everyone talks about, the mantra of minimum government and maximum governance, someone from the private sector said that, yeah, you should also look at minimum risk and maximum profit. So that is something that we are talking about here as well. And that's a reality, that if we want the kind of participation and collaboration we're looking at, we also have to make sure that that is also something that we factor in.